CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
The May primary elections are coming up, and that means polling officials are making sure they are ready. During the last election, Fulton County experienced some problems with their voting, but they say this year they're ready to go. Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Adam Murphy, consumer investigative reporter for CBS 46 News. Fulton County voters have been among the most vocal when it comes to problems at various polling places. They say they've received incorrect or outdated information when it came to cast their ballot. My colleague Renee Starzik spoke to officials who say they have a better handle of things right now.
My goal is to try to, help send a message, if you will, that, look, we've got to fix these problems.
Secretary of State Brian Kemp remembers this scene all too well. The 2012 presidential election. People waited for hours as confused poll workers had no record of thousands of legitimately registered voters. Polling places ran out of paper ballots.
To me, it's not rocket science. It's clearly laid out in Georgia law how to conduct an election.
County Commissioner Liz Hausman says she and others welcome an investigation by the Attorney General. It's the next step in straightening out Fulton's voting mess.
We'll certainly work with the Attorney General's office to try to reach an agreement with Fulton County that we are in support of, that we could bring back to the State Elections Board to approve, that would provide a solution for this problem.
The Secretary of State's investigation found poor planning, insufficient training, and most troubling, a lack of security for some 10,000 paper ballots.
I think that I can say to voters, your vote is going to count, and I'm going to take it personally if you have any major inconvenience or obstacle in voting.
Mary Carol Cooney points out there are a lot of new faces on the County Elections Board, a new director, and a new state voting computer system. Many say they're watching closely.
There should not be any questions about how an election is conducted, nor the results. People should have full confidence in the integrity of the election.
Now, we reported on that story back in December, and joining me now is Mary Carol Cooney. Thank you so much for being on the program. Now, Mary Carol, you are the chairman of the Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections, right?
That's correct.
So tell me, have things improved?
I think that they have. As a matter of fact, I think that Fulton County realized that there were some serious problems after the presidential election in November 2012, because it was at that point that I was elected by the Board of Commissioners as the new chairman of the Elections Board, and it was shortly after that that we recruited and hired Rick Barron, our new elections director. We undertook an examination of what had gone wrong, which the Secretary of State had investigated, and we found that a lot of what was said was true. And we made up our minds to address those things. I think we're doing it now.
Yeah, it sounds like in this case the changes have come from the top down. And you guys have some new leadership in there. Tell me a little bit about the changes that you have made to make this process smooth.
One of the things that we identified was the problem of long lines and people not finding their names and proper addresses at the precincts and polling places where they voted. We have worked very hard to make sure that we have a full, accurate list of voters so that no one is unduly delayed in finding themselves on the appropriate list, and so that their votes can be recorded promptly. That the use of provisional ballots, which was necessitated by people not finding themselves on the voter list, was what accounted for many of the long lines in the November 2012 election.
Were the core complaints about the long lines?
There were complaints about the long lines, there were complaints about poorly trained poll workers, and there were complaints about voters not being able to reach someone to get answers by phone. Those are all things that we are addressing right now.
And so you talked a little bit about the polling people that were working.
Yes.
Have you made changes there as well?
Yes. Rick Barron has instituted some new training procedures and some new poll workers to make sure that we have very well educated and, for the most part, experienced poll workers who can deal with any questions that come up.
What would you say caused the mix-up or confusion or some of these issues?
In 2012?
Correct.
we were unable to populate, is the word, our list of electors, our list of voters, promptly and accurately. This is not as easy as you would think it would be, because we not only have to get every voter's name right, we also have to get that voter into the appropriate polling place and into every district in which that voter will vote, whether it's a municipal election, a county election, statewide, state representative. And that was something that was not happening well in 2012.
So what do you want voters to know as we approach another round of elections? What would you tell them about the system this time around?
The system this time around is going to address the issues that they had. I think they're not going to find long lines. I think that we will be able to assure them that if they are properly registered, they will be properly within the electors list, and that the county will has that electors list right now, so that they can check their proper name and address and then find out where they're supposed to vote and for which candidates they are eligible to vote.
Have you been working on these improvements year-round? I mean, this is not something you just prep for a month or two before an election.
Election work is year-round work, and the time that we're not actually preparing for an election, we are working hard on voter registration lists. It is definitely every day, 365 days a year.
So you can't get tired of it. You got to stick with it, right?
It's one of the most important things we can possibly do in this country, so no, I'm not tired of it.
So how do you restore the faith of those voters out there based on the past and what you've done to improve? How do you restore that faith?
I think from my perspective there are two ways in which we're going to do that. One is to have an election where our electors, our voters, are able to conveniently vote at the right places. And secondly, where we communicate with them about problems, about solutions, and about results so that they know it's happening right.
Yeah, it always helps to prove them at the polls, to show them that this is moving smoothly. That will do it right there, I think, to restore the faith. Mary Carroll, thank you so much. Great advice. When we come back, we'll talk to one of the newer guys on the job, Director Rick Barron. Talks about his plans to turn things around leading up to the 2016 presidential election. Join us after the break here on Public Affairs on Peach.